Welcome to Forensic Friday,
where we examine the intersection of true crime, psychology, and the heart of being human in the middle of it all. Well, hello.
Hi.
It's been quite a couple weeks. We're just like catching up,
Something.
getting our lives together. Loved your case on Friday. It was super good.
Thanks.
And my mom was laughing about us laughing about how we say things and pronounce things wrong and all the things. So,
oh gosh, I have to listen to it still.
chows.
Oh, poor Preston.
I know, it's so good though.
Chows.
My child was chastising me about screen time, so What was it you said? Our 95% is as humbling at times. That is true. That is true. We have so much to do this weekend. We are getting ready for CrimeCon. We are training at probation.
This portion of the audio redacted because reasons.
I can't say anything about it yet, so okay, cut that out.
Dang it.
Yeah, they'll wait till you get to, but we for Friday we can though. By the time this comes out, you'll probably know, What else do we have going on? The book. I met with my editor this afternoon and we are in such a good spot. My editor is amazing. She's been like walking through all of it with me. She's so great. So I can't wait. I have to turn in the final draft on April 20th, but I'm sending it Sunday night. Like Sunday night it's kind of out of my hands Sunday night, but the final one goes to get a proof done on the 20th, and then we'll be printing a copy to go through it.
That's so exciting.
Then I order them. So we will have them at CrimeCon. So if you want to buy my book, we'll have them at CrimeCon.
Yay.
I know. I'm so excited. And then Nat and I are working on a writing project as well to come in the future. So we got a lot going on.
To be continued.
To be continued. To be continued. So for today's mini, we need to catch up on Taylor Franke Paul because the saga continues. And I was telling Nat earlier today that we work with people all the time who are going through custody issues while also involved in the criminal judicial system, so in civil and criminal. And just today I was in a meeting where they were talking about the civil courts were getting some recommendations that would have been different than the criminal courts and how that would have jammed people up who are in both, like Taylor Franke Paul. And so I thought I might give a quick update on what's going on and then explain some of how it works. Because some people, even when you're in it, you don't totally understand it. And Nat and I have a unique take on how to navigate this because we work in it on the criminal side and in the civil side. So they had court on April 7th, Dakota and Taylor, regarding their 2-year-old son.
Yes.
They both appeared virtually. And I saw clips of it. They had their cameras off, both of them. They were present. Their attorneys were present. And again, this is the trauma of family court. You're with this person that you've loved and shared children with, and then you're in this adversarial place with each other with attorneys. It's just really hard. I think people sometimes talk about it in a blasé way, but it is actually really, really painful and hard. And a lot of our clients are working really hard on the criminal side of things. And then they're also going to court for the civil side. And it's painful. It's just painful. So a Utah district court judge granted Taylor Franke Paul supervised visits. Because remember, there's a protection order. And so she hadn't been able to see her son for a little bit. So the judge granted supervised visits with her 2-year-old son. I don't know what's happening with the other situation. I read somewhere that there wasn't actually a protection order with her ex. So I don't know. I haven't dug into that. I'm sticking with her and Dakota because that's where I can find actual news sources and not just social media crap. So I'm sticking with that.
Okay.
So this hearing on the 7th occurred hours after Taylor Franke Paul also filed a temporary protective order against Dakota. And what she is alleging is that he has demonstrated a pattern of abusive conduct and coercive control in the relationship. And she requested that their son be covered under the protective order. So now they have dueling protective orders happening, essentially. And sometimes I think it's shitty when this happens, but sometimes partners do this as a way to kind of throw their weight around in a custody dispute. Sometimes it's warranted and it makes sense, and sometimes it doesn't. And I'm not going to speak into this one because I think there's a lot of pieces going on here on both sides. I absolutely can see coercive control in what I've seen on the TV screen. I do not know these humans. This is just my hot entertainment take, right? But I've seen coercive behaviors. I think anyone would agree with that on the screen. Whether he's acting in its character, who knows? But it sure looks legit when you're watching it unfold.
Right.
When they appeared in court, their attorneys really started kind of arguing back and forth about the details of the cases because Taylor Franke Paul also filed information. I don't know that there have been any charges. I haven't seen anything that say there have been charges, but she's raised allegations that she was abused, that she was kept in a truck, in Dakota's truck, and he wouldn't stop and let her out, that he was driving her.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's allegations. And so Taylor Franke Paul's lawyer requested that the parties go back to their quote unquote status quo, which in civil cases is huge. That's the court likes to maintain things the way they've been unless there's good reason to change them. And when there's kids involved, there's good reason for that. Kids get used to a routine and a system. And when you change that up, it's hard on the whole system. And so they try to maintain the status quo. The status quo came from their August 2025 settlement agreement in a custody action. The attorney went on and on about how she had been, attacked online and re-victimized over and over again. That was Taylor Franke Paul's attorney's argument. And also, he brought up the fact that this massive opportunity was taken from her. The Bachelorette was taken from her. But that this pales in comparison to the fact that her parenting time with her 2-year-old son has been outright suspended and that she had no parenting time whatsoever. He argued against supervised visits and said the reality television star was essentially being thrown scraps. Like she's just getting whatever's left over, supervised visits, very little time, kind of that she's being victimized in the court process. That's the argument. And then Dakota's attorney gets on and says, we would like to see visitation supervised. We'd like to see it preferably by a facility that can act as a go-between between the parties. We do not believe it would be safe for my client for the parties to communicate directly with each other. I would agree with that. I second that. It's a smart woman. I would agree. The commissioner asked if Taylor Franke Paul's actions have been directly aimed at the children or if any harm to them had been incidental during disputes between the cast member, Taylor and Dakota. And Dakota's attorney said, we're alleging both, that in these moments, and this is super important, this is what we're going to be talking about, that in these moments where the respondent is out of control and in these moments where the parties are fighting, both things happen. She's completely reckless in her behavior toward the children. So yes, they happen to be in the line of fire. Now, the part that I messaged you the other day, the Guardian Ad Litem, so this is a court-appointed person who looks really at the child's perspective. They don't get in the weeds on the custody stuff. They're not evaluating the parental relationship. They're really looking at the kid. What does the kid need? That's their whole job. And what the GAL said in this case is yes to supervised visits because, and I quote, I'm not convinced that there won't be anger directed at other people that can result in the children being harmed. That's my concern. It's a lack of self-control. Okay. So what they ended up recommending was 6 hours of supervised parenting time per week for
Okay.
Taylor until they meet again on April 30th to discuss both protective orders.
Dang.
Then the commissioner expanded it to 8 hours of supervised visits after Taylor's lawyer requested that. And so the judge said again, I just want to emphasize that the decision I'm making today is very limited in duration, that they're going to have a full hearing on the merits of what may be competing petitions for a protective order. There may be a parent order that comes at that time as well. So the reason this is interesting is what the judge is saying is, I'm going to do the safest thing now,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll hear both of your full arguments on the 30th,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And what he said, and this is so, so, so important for DV, okay, in custody situations.
Mm-hmm.
Even if Dakota, and this is what we said in our episode, and we took, I would say like 90% of people actually understood it, but the 10% that came at us hard. But I
Yeah.
want to emphasize this is super important. And listen, you don't have to agree with this, but the courts agree with this. There's laws in the state of Colorado that say this. So get on
Yeah.
board or not, but this
Yeah.
is the deal. And the research supports this, okay?
Yeah.
And I'm going to explain in a minute. Even if Dakota was trying to provoke a response, and that's what we saw people say, like, what did he do before? And we talked about the fact that it's not, I don't doubt for 1 minute that they weren't having a totally heinous fight before this happened. I believe it.
Mm-hmm.
The hard part for the court, this is from the judge, is when it happens in the presence, right? Presence of children
Mm-hmm.
during the incident. That's the issue. I mean, it's an issue DV, right? But the reason that
Yeah.
Taylor is getting the harder end with custody is because one of her children ended up getting hit by a metal chair. And that matters no matter what happened leading up to it.
It hit her. I think it hit her in the head.
Yeah, that's what I read for sure. That's what I read.
So, yeah.
So, Nat, when we're talking about the reactive nature of their relationship, that they both can lose their cool, they can fight like cats and dogs. I have not seen evidence, certainly not videos of him being physically aggressive yet. I don't doubt that that could have happened.
Mm-hmm.
We've said that from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think people have a hard time understanding the impact of that on a child when it's a woman? Because if a man was doing what Taylor was doing in that video, they'd be like, he shouldn't be around children, he shouldn't be around women, like that's it, lock him up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying the same thing. I'm saying yes, if a man was doing that, we would not want that man around his intimate partner or his children.
Right.
Why do you think people struggle with that so much when it's a woman? That they're like, what did he do?
I think women are seen and viewed as being more nurturing because I think we're wired more that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so when moms, especially moms, see, well, men too actually see their kids being separated from their mom, there's like a different type of attachment. You know?
Yeah.
And
Maybe
even,
it stirs up
even
something
heard,
different.
even heard Dakota talk about not wanting her to go to jail and being away from her kids when he was in the car.
Absolutely.
Right. But I think it's just viewed differently because, and especially in their situation, he's like, I mean, they were dating, they were never married, but he's like, those aren't his kids. That wasn't his daughter.
I agree with you. And one of the toughest groups we've had ever, maybe. And we do this every 6 months or so because we're gluttons for punishment.
Mm-hmm.
When we show, there's a couple of scenes that we show. We show a scene from Maid, the show
Mm-hmm.
Maid. We show a scene from The Breakup that's excellent for discussing domestic violence, like just how arguments escalate.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also occasionally play that 911 video or clip, right? Audio.
Kids one, yeah.
And what is it that the men say that make us the most mad? When do you and I kind of like need to take a time out or take a deep breath? What is it that they say? Us particularly maid.
I was gonna say with the maid one,
Mhm.
they say, well, what'd she do?
Always,
What'd she do right before this?
without fail, someone in the group, not everyone in the group, but without fail, someone in the group will be
Mhm.
like, well, what did she do? And what we always say
Mhm.
is there anything that makes it okay to slam your hand into the wall next to a woman's face, to scream in her face, right? And we push really hard on that.
Mhm.
And there's always guys who get it pretty quick,
Mhm.
and they can be kind of protective, but there's always a few who just there's a story here. And the problem with there being a story that validates violence is that what happens when that story happens again? If it's okay to be violent in one scenario, it'll be okay to be violent in another scenario. Like
Yeah.
we can't have relativism with violence. Even the laws have thresholds for self-defense, et cetera, because you
Yeah.
can't just we would be arguing all day in court about whether or not it was justified to punch somebody in the face, and we'd have 8,000 opinions, right?
Yeah. And a lot of people wouldn't probably go to jail.
Yes.
They'd be like, oh, I guess that's a good enough reason. No, there's no good reason.
And what it does to the brains of children, even fighting without violence, just really vicious fighting, calling each other names, storming up and down, weaponizing the kids. Well, your mother this, your father that.
Mm-hmm.
It puts so much strain on kids that the laws in civil courts are starting to really get at this. And so we do have educated listeners. Okay, so even if you disagreed with us, the arguments that I saw around coercive control were actually pretty great and spot on.
Mm-hmm.
Dakota absolutely has engaged in coercive control. There's not a doubt in my mind. Like I said,
Yeah.
you are not wrong. Explaining coercive control does not excuse reactive violence. It might explain the buildup, the resentment, all of that. It can help us understand it. Does
Mm-hmm.
not excuse it. There's no line in the law that says, well, if he pissed you off that many times, if he cheated that many times, you're entitled to XYZ. I have yet to see that chart. Cheated
Right.
on you twice, punch him in the nuts. I've never seen it. Never seen it.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt that I ever will. Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if the shoe was on the other foot, that would not be acceptable.
Mm-mm. Nope. Well, and that's like, you were talking about the whole Darvo thing, and I understand the concept of Darvo, but it's that idea of like, he pushed her so much for her to respond that way. We don't let any group get away with that.
Nope.
Ever. I don't let
Nope.
my men get away with that. I don't let my women's group get away with that.
No.
But especially the men, because
No.
they feel sometimes the same way where it's like, well, they just pushed me. Well, if it's okay for a woman to say that,
Yes.
that is giving, and that's, I mean, I don't know.
Well,
It's not a good direction that that whole thing went in.
the risk in it in mass media is that we will continue to enable and glorify female violence, that it'll be like this is understandable and justified and cute or sexy or whatever they think it is, until they go to court and then they get sentenced harsher because we don't want to see women in court. So
Yeah.
it's just a hot garbage mess. So the best way to advocate for women is with good information.
Yeah.
It's actually not to validate whatever narrative they're coming to the table with. We're very passionate about our whole lives are about keeping women safe.
Yeah.
Whether it's as the aggressor in a situation or the victim in a situation, we want them safe.
Mm-hmm.
So you heard it here first. When it comes to a Darvo analysis, let's apply that where it belongs, which might be a civil case like this. They
Mm-hmm.
need to evaluate the crap out of this civilly. I support that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that will be very important, but that is not the same as making the violence okay.
Right.
You know what I mean? We're not excusing the violence. Darvo does not excuse violence.
No.
It explains reactivity, but it does not excuse it. It shouldn't excuse anything. It is used that way.
Right. Right.
So hats off to all of you for reading all the things. I respect it so much. And I think we've come such a long way, but like keep going with it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where the research is going too.
Yeah.
You know, the research
Yeah.
is going towards how do we keep the most people safe? And
Yeah.
I'm here for that.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. So that's
Wild
my
ride.
update. So we'll see what happens on the 30th. And ultimately, I really want both of them to be healthy. I don't want them together.
Mm-hmm.
I did hear they're back together. I don't know if that's true or not. That's a
That's
social
so
media rumor mill.
annoying.
I have no idea.
That's so annoying.
I know. I really hope they're not together, but you know, I hope they get the help that they need, both of them. They both need help.
Yeah. Me too.
Well, thanks for joining me, and we'll see you all Friday.
As always.
Bye, forensic friends. I'm Janine.
And I'm Nat.
And as always, thanks for listening, and join us next week for more crime, psychology, and heart.